Orebella is Bella Hadid's new scent brand that just released today with much fanfare. And for good reason. It has had such an interesting launch, from its trademarks potentially being a bit close to another brand's, scarcity marketing in drip-fed information, and managing to form an emotional connection with customers pre-release, all of which have made for a fascinatingly successful launch strategy. Orabella pre-launch had been particularly mysterious. I couldn't find any interviews Bella did specifically for the brand pre-launch, and it seems all of the nuggets of information that journalists have used to report have been directly from Bella's own social media, Instagram and TikTok specifically, showing a strong level of control over the narrative of the launch. The one exception to this are their trademark filings. In very early 2022, BKH Essential LLC, which is Bella Hadid's company, filed to trademark both Orabella and Orabella Essentials very specifically in this stylization. The filings are for a wide array of products, specifically all to do with fragrance, but just to point out a few, they trademarked scented lotions and oils for body and face, shampoos, conditioners, leave-in conditioners, reed diffusers, oils, soaps, laundry goods like bleach, candles, wicks, lighting, a whole bunch of things to do with cooking and refrigeration, kitchen utensils, brushes, glass, and porcelain. This sounds extreme, and it is. But it's actually pretty standard for a new business, as it helps simply to protect their name from whatever they might release in the future. It's not to say she will have all of these things, but to prevent somebody else from coming along and backpacking off of their hoped success. However, before we get into the launch, I just want to note one unusual thing about these trademarks, in that it's so heavily stylized in text. It's not Orabella like this, it's only Orabella like this. They've trademarked it as the word, but the description of it is very specific in that it is this stylized format. I'm not an expert in copyright law, so I just called Jessica Rothstein, who is Hadid's lawyer in this, and honestly, I just couldn't get through. She was on holiday and then I was sick, so it just didn't align. So I'm left to simply assume that the brand is covered for both, just because I find it hard to believe that they would leave that thread hanging. However, strangely, there's another brand, this time from the Philippines, that has a particularly similar name, Orabella, with an A. This is a brand launched in Dubai in 2017, and it specifically targets the Filipino audience, so it's quite different from what I assume to be a Western-focused brand in Orabella. But because the Orabella trademarking is for international use, I did reach out to Orabella to ask their opinion on how they felt with the launch. Unfortunately, they were unable to get back to me in time for this video, but I did also message Celine Padilla, who's a Filipina skincare influencer, for some perspective on how the public sees the brand. And she said, quote, "Orabella might not be as mainstream as some other brands due to its luxurious pricing, but let me tell you, it's worth every penny. I stumbled upon it on Chris Bernal's YouTube channel, and after checking out some honest reviews, I was sold. I've been using it for almost a year now. I've gone from just a user to a promoter." So it sounds to me almost like they're a Filipino version of how Suhasu was a few years ago before they started their international campaigns. It was very available in Korea, even in supermarkets. It was respected, worked without gimmick, and for the price point was more widely used than you'd think, even if it wasn't famous whatsoever on the Western market. But unlike Suhasu, still today, the Orabella brand isn't really a buzzworthy brand yet. With that said, I checked their website, and to a Western eye, they're actually very accessibly priced. $8.65 for their best-selling bar, and $6.39 for their Defense Factor spot solution. But considering Celine said that this was more of a luxurious price point for the Philippine market, it's clear that this is a very different market in terms of price point as well. $6 to $8 is luxury for the Philippines. To quote Ultra Random Story, who's a subscriber from the Philippines who very graciously offered to help me with the video, they said, "From what I've observed, the general market here tends to be low to middle income. Exacerbated by the pandemic, most consumers here buy from online stores like Shopee and Lazada. 200 pesos is pretty expensive for a bar of soap. I bet I can find one for less than that." For good measure, I compared prices between Sephora US and Sephora Philippines to evidence that there is an apparent market for these pricier cosmetics in the Philippines, where they even pay more for the same product, further helping differentiate Orabella from Orebella even within the same geographic market, hypothetically. Though I should also preface this by quoting Ultra Random Story again to say, I've seen comments over on our local beauty subreddits that say Sephora won't do well here because they're pretty expensive, which gives us a clue that though these brands are similarly named, Orabella and Orebella, and there is a small market for luxury cosmetics in the Philippines, the two brands are very clearly for different markets and are unlikely to be confused. And honestly, because Hadid's brand is Western focused and Orabella is so specifically focused to the Philippines, I don't see Bella Hadid's target market really knowing that this was a brand at all, and with what Selin said, it seems more of a cult brand in the Philippines anyway, as opposed to something buzzy, and honestly I just don't believe it to affect their sales in the present, but it is undeniably similar in name, so I do worry about a copyright issue potentially in the future if there is ever a launch in the Philippines, just because it is really just sad to see a celebrity brand steamroll a smaller brand in that sense. Meanwhile, for Orabella's main target audience way over in the West, an announcement still had yet to be made, and so the public as well as many of her fans simply didn't know about the brand existing at all. At least that was until a cryptic message on Bella's Instagram showed she was having a meeting with Ulta on the 9th of February 2024 that really sparked interest in her existing fanbase of what she might be working on. Obviously, this is quite a big time jump. She had had about 2 years to formulate the product after the trademarks were filed, before what I assume to be a pitch meeting for her and her team. But to the public, this was really the first domino that had journalists looking into whether she was releasing a product. This type of marketing is pretty standard as a way to drum up interest before the product launch. However, the difference in the way celebrity brands are able to go about this is rather different than other startup brands. You see, most brands will have to be big and loud before a launch to get people excited, just to get eyes on the brand or product. But with a celebrity, they already have a captive audience to which to sell. They don't need to make a big buzz because their audience will do it for them. And the trend with marketing to this audience these days is almost akin to scarcity marketing, where the less their fans know, the more their fans want to know. Scarcity marketing is usually studied in relation to product availability, famously with the supply and demand curve just at really extreme. But to quote Barton, Slaveska, and Opperwell's abstract in their 2022 study named Scarcity Tactics in Marketing, a meta-analysis of product scarcity effects on consumer purchase intentions, scarcity tactics are an essential tool for marketers. Cues that signal the current or potential unavailability of a product generally enhance its value and desirability and in turn increase purchase intentions. This was furthered from a very famous paper from 1968 by Brock named Implications of Commodity Theory for Value Exchange, where he defined scarcity marketing, first, that any commodity will be valued to the extent that it is unavailable, second, that threat increases commodity-seeking behavior and the tendency to withhold commodities from others. Both of these are obviously quite wordy, but in short, by giving her audience as little information as humanly possible, she created interest. She held her cards close to her chest and made the public want to see those cards even more. This effectively set in motion the entire launch strategy, which would continue to reveal so little information being drip-fed to audiences that literally whole articles detailing each piece of information known about the launch in chronological order have been released on Glamour, Teen Vogue, and the Zoe Report. Teen Vogue talked about there being a free gift for people that signed up early, its connection to the number 222, and the connection between her brand launch and this image of her holding a fragrance, which we will come back to. Glamour discussed the video released on her Instagram that's now also available on the website, and the Zoe Report talked about the aforementioned trademarks and the tagline, "Reveal Your Alchemy." From all of these dots, combined with the vast majority of what is trademarked, it seemed that this is really planned as a fragrance line. In fact, from the dots that we currently have, I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't any pigmented makeup products at all at launch, and instead we got more obviously perfume products under what WWD is calling a scent brand. Which, if it is, that's another separator from the Filipino Orabella brand we discussed earlier, which is much more of a skincare brand, perhaps intended for a Filipino skin clinic as opposed to a simple cosmetic store like Sephora. But it's exactly this purposeful vagueness of the brand or product in the promotion that causes the interest in speculation, concluding in assumptions such as that I have just delivered that this is a fragrance brand, Going back to quote Brock, any commodity will be valued to the extent that it is unavailable. If we take in the 4 Ps, that means that pre-launch we really only have information on promotion, which is obviously celebrity endorsement and social media, and obviously the scarcity marketing forcing big buzz before the launch. And we also have information about the place of purchase because of the alter teas and the website having early signups, which I won't go into too deeply, but it's smart, it's accessible, it's well prepared to reach a wide audience, but also a younger target market. This leaves us, as the audience, price and product to speculate on. Arguably the 2 most tantalizing aspects of any product launch, especially when it comes to celebrity brands. In fact, celebrity brands specifically have an opposite trajectory to most brands. Most brands start life small and grow as people discover the product, whereas celebrity brands tend to do the opposite. They begin with a huge launch and slope down from there, eventually attempting just to stabilize purchases with customers won over from the launch hurrah. Of course, not all celebrity brands are like this. There are some that purposely try to avoid that big hurrah. In fashion, there's quite a lot. There's The Row from the Olsen twins, Guest in Residence by Gigi Hadid, and Brad Pitt's God's True Cashmere. But in cosmetics, there are very few that follow this trend, and that's because of a few reasons, namely competition, margins, and repurchase potential. Competition is obvious. There's so many products that are the same or similar in product quality without the celebrity endorsement premium that it's harder to create loyalty for celebrity brands. So it makes more sense to get the interest and sales in before novelty wears off and customers move on. This is then really enabled by margins. In cosmetics, there can easily be a 400% to 700% markup on a product while maintaining an affordable price point. So because it's an easier purchase, less of an investment than, say, clothing, they are more likely to sell in volume. For a normal brand, that doesn't always mean that they're going to be profitable because cosmetics does cost so much in promotion. But for a celebrity brand whose costs will be even less than a normal brand's, because their audience will do the promotion for them, there is opportunity for a significantly higher markup. Because of that, cosmetic launches tend to be a better return on investment than other sectors, even if interest doesn't last for a prolonged time. When that idea is taken in conjunction with the repurchase potential, it really makes a splashy launch worthwhile for any cosmetics brand. I think I read recently in research for an upcoming Britney Spears video that there's a window of about 7 years on cosmetics before consumers start looking for a new product. And you'll have to forgive me that I don't remember where I read that, but I'm assuming, using the marketing funnel, that means that after awareness has been garnered, they considered and purchased the product, then liked it enough to turn that relationship into loyalty, they have a repurchasing window of about 7 years. Either that or they have 7 years after the initial purchase to decide whether to repurchase. Either way, obviously only a fraction of initial buyers do return to repurchase, but the more initial buyers a company can get, the more 7-year-long repurchasing power they can make. And for a big, splashy celebrity brand launch, that's a hell of a lot of initial buyers making their way down the funnel. Of course, I'd imagine that their conversion rate is lower than most brands just because there is an aspect of hype. Many people do want to only try it the once. But as long as they can eventually stabilize their loyal customers, that's quite good longevity for any celebrity brand, especially for brands with good product consistency. This brings me back to the idea of Orabella debuting as a scent brand. This was really first noted by Teen Vogue after she teased the created by Pasha Oasis of Love fragrance on her stories, and was then furthered by Cosmopolitan after they noted an off-screen fragrance spray on TikTok captioned, "What do you think I'm bringing to ya?" Of course, we cannot know pre-launch, but this is obviously very clearly teasing the audience to expect a fragrance, possibly one inspired by her Middle Eastern or specifically Palestinian roots, which will validate consumer speculations if/when it is revealed to be one, making them feel smarter and more connected to the launch of the product because they weren't explicitly told, potentially lengthening the repurchase potential. And just as a post-editing note, it was revealed to be a fragrance brand just the day before it went live, which also adds to the validity that it gives to their customers, and it adds to the drip feeding of information that we talked about earlier. But there's more to this. Another aspect is, of course, Bella's huge current fan support for her support of the Free Palestine movement, especially considering the rumor that she was dropped from Charlotte Tilbury for her support of Palestine, which I probably should reiterate is a rumor. Now, I'm not suggesting that she is using this war to push her own product, obviously, but because of the topic, it has seen her fans connect to her in a more emotional way already, which will inadvertently help her sell product. In fact, one fan said this explicitly, quote, "If you tell us to switch from Sephora to Ulta for Palestine, we will do it." Watermelon emoji. This works because it connects the fan and celebrity together through a united cause and makes that parasocial relationship stronger and makes the connection between fans as a tribe stronger as well. To quote sartorial fandom, Fashion, Beauty, Culture and Identity, which is my favorite book on celebrity to fan marketing, these connections, however ephemeral, are significant exercises in mutual recognition of shared fan objects, but also in self-recognition of how our fan identifies and lived identities intersect. Vitally, this remains the case when we consider the forms of sartorial expression that by design do not visibly self-identify us as fans. A pair of Super Mario Bros. Socks, MAC Cosmetics Star Trek nail polish, or Skin of Evil Wonder Woman underwear. Which when applied to Hadid, may mean that those that are pro-Palestine in the current discourse will feel more motivated to purchase as they see their own values projected in the brand. Again, I'm not saying this is purposeful marketing whatsoever, because realistically the wider public only began learning about the situation in Gaza in 2023, and Orabella has been trademarked for at least a year before that, and Bella herself is obviously from Palestinian roots on her dad's side, I believe. But this is a way that the brand will be able to connect to their potential customer on a deeper level. She may benefit from this, even if it is unintentional. In fact, seemingly, this is the least purposeful aspect to the pre-launch, which in all of its other aspects has been an incredible study in its direct intention. The scarcity of information baiting fans into speculation while still being quite clear about the place of purchase is very obviously purposeful, and because it is largely limited to Hadid's own social media, is well controlled and curated. But to the consumer, it's simple, it's authentic, and it's clever, making them connect to the brand in an intellectual way. The only real criticism I can think of all of this pre-launch is that maybe they could have been more transparent with the price point, because there definitely is potential for disappointment on launch if it is pricier than expected. But yet I'm still interested to see what the brand is like upon launch and how all of these dots connect together, because so far it's been a very interesting ramp up. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe down below. If you're interested in fashion, do check out my fashion channel Understitch, and thank you very much to my patrons on Patreon, some of whose names are on the screen now. All content used in this video is done so in accordance with the principles of fair use. However, if you have any concerns, please contact me directly at contact@understitch.co.uk.